Hello. This video is going over the basic concepts of fractions. The first thing to know about fractions is the two parts. The first or top number of a fraction is called the numerator, and the bottom number of a fraction is called the denominator. Take a second and write that on your paper. The numerator tells us how many pieces you have or how many pieces are colored in if you're looking at some sort of visual. The denominator tells us how many total pieces there are, or how many pieces the shape has been cut into if you're looking at some kind of visual. Take a second and make sure you write that down on your paper. On the bottom part of our page, we are going to draw pictures to represent the fractions shown on the left side of each rectangle. Since we know it's important that fractions are split into a certain number of pieces, it is just as important to make sure that the pieces are of equal size. So when you're splitting your rectangle into pieces, make sure they are equal sized pieces. The first rectangle is going to be made into a fraction of 1/2. Looking at our denominator, that tells me I need to cut this rectangle into 2 equal pieces, and that only one of them is going to be colored in, or is the amount that we actually have. Take a moment and draw that on your paper. Once you have cut your rectangle into 2 equal pieces, color in one of the pieces to show that you have 1/2 of that rectangle. Let's take a look at our next example. Our next example says 3/4, which means we need to cut our rectangle into 4 equal pieces. Take a second and do that on your paper. Once you've split your rectangle into 4 equal pieces, you need to color in 3 of them to represent 3/4. There we go. Try the next 2 examples on your own and then push play on the video when you're ready to see the answers. On the fraction that says 2/5, you should have split your rectangle into 5 pieces. Once you split it into 5 equal pieces, you are going to color in 2 of those pieces to show 2/5. The next fraction should be cut in 3 pieces to show thirds, and it wants us to color in 2 of those squares to show 2/3. Go ahead and try the last 2 fractions and then push play when you're ready to check your answers. The next fraction says 4/6. Since our denominator is a 6, we need to cut our fraction into 6 equal pieces. Since our numerator is a 4, we are going to color in 4 out of those 6 pieces to show 4/6. Our last example on this page says 5/7, or 5/7. Since the denominator is a 7, we need to cut our rectangle into 7 equal pieces. And since our numerator is a 5, I need to color in 5 of those rectangles to show 5/7. Take a moment to make sure you have this entire page filled in before we work on the next page. On the next page, we are going to talk about how fractions can be represented on a number line or through real-world situations. First, we are going to take a look at some number lines. On our first example, it has the fraction 1/2, or 1/2. For that example, we need to split our number line into 2 pieces, similar to how we would cut a rectangle in 2 pieces, so that we can figure out how many total pieces our number line is going to be cut in. We find out how many pieces from the denominator, or our bottom number. So first thing I'm going to do is figure out, okay, I'm going to put 0 over here. 1/2 would be right in the middle, and then 1 full pizza, or 2 halves, would be all the way over here. So as you can see, by making these 3 little dash marks, there's 1 piece right here and a second piece right here of our number line. Now that I've labeled each section of my number line, I'm going to find out where 1/2 is on my number line, and I'm going to place a point on that spot. The first dash on my line says 0 out of 2, or 0, so 0/2, or 0. On the far end of my line, I have 2 halves, or 1 whole. 1/2 falls right in the middle where it says 1/2 on my number line, and that's where I'm going to place my point on my number line. I'm going to do one more example and then I want you to try the rest of these on your own. Our next example says 3/4, so we need to cut our number line into 4 separate pieces. Based on the denominator of 4, I split my number line into 4 separate pieces. This piece is 0 to 1/4. This piece is 1/4 to 2/4. This piece is 2/4 to 3/4. And this last chunk is 3/4 to 4/4, or 1 whole. Since the fraction they gave us is 3/4, I'm going to put a dot on my number line right here at 3/4. Go ahead and try the next 3 examples of number lines on your own. Push play on this video when you're ready to check your answers. Our next example says 2/3, or 2/3. So I split my number line into 3 specific sections, starting at 0, or 0/3, 1/3, 2/3, all the way to 3/3, or 1 whole. Since the fraction they gave us is 2/3, I'm going to place the point for my fraction right here at 2/3. Looking at our next number line, it said 2/5. So I split my number line into 5 separate pieces, starting at 0, or 0/5, all the way to 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, all the way up to 5/5, or 1 whole. Since they gave us 2/5 as our fraction, I'm going to place my point right here at 2/5. Lastly, we have 4/6, or 4/6. I cut my number line into 6 different pieces, starting at 0, going all the way up to 6/6, or 1 whole. 4/6 is right here. It is the 4th dash on my line, and so that's where I'm going to place my point. Looking at the rest of our sheet, we have a real-world situation. Then we are going to write a fraction for each of these specific sections. The problem says, or the example says, Phineas ordered a pizza that is cut into 8 pieces. I think that's going to be important, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. 8 pieces is the total number of pieces our pizza we have. Ferb ate 3 pieces, Phineas ate 2 pieces, and Candace ate 1 piece. Write a fraction to represent each answer in the table below. So Phineas has 2 pieces. Candace, let me get a different color for Candace. She ate 1 piece. And Ferb is our last one. He ate 3 pieces. Okay, so let's take a look. The first thing it asks us for is the pieces that Ferb ate. Before I even start thinking about Ferb, how many total pieces of pizza did we have when they delivered the pizza, or when we ordered this pizza? We had 8 pieces. So out of all of our fractions, they should all have the same denominator of 8. So I'm going to go ahead and put an 8 under each fraction to make sure they all have the same denominator. Now that we have all of our denominators, we can talk about each individual person. Ferb ate 3 pieces, so his fraction should say 3 out of 8, or 3/8, because he had 3 pieces out of the 8 pieces that we had total. Phineas ate 2 pieces, so his fraction is going to be 2/8, or 2/8, because he ate 2 of the pieces out of 8 total pieces that were available. Candace only ate 1 piece, so her fraction is going to be 1/8, or 1/8. Now this one's a little tricky because they did not tell us that information in the scenario, and we're going to have to think through this. If we had 8 total pieces, and these are all the pieces that have been eaten, we just need to figure out how many are left over. So if we started with 8 pieces, and then Ferb ate 3, that means we would have 5 left over. I'm going to put that right under where Ferb's name is. Then Phineas ate 2 of the pieces, so we end up with 3 pieces left over. Then Candace ate 1 of the pieces, so we end up with 2 pieces left over. So our final answer is 2/8, or 2/8 is the number of pizza we have left over. Take a moment to make sure you have this entire page filled in.